Hi everybody. This is going to be my last video on a human face, and I'm going to do hair. You can have hair or not have hair, it's completely up to you, but if you want to have hair, let's talk about the proper way to do it. And as always, I'm going to show you a realistic version of it, and then you're going to do whatever works for you for your mask. One of the things I want to talk to you about is hair has a dimension to it. Oh, my hair is a mess today. Probably should have combed my hair before I started talking about it. It's got ups and downs, and it ebbs and it flows, and it doesn't sit flat. Even if your hair is smooth, it still has dimension to it. It has movement to it. And sometimes we even exaggerate that movement a little bit for sculptural reasons, because it's just going to, we take a little artistic license, let's say, just so it gives it a little bit more realism. We don't want just kind of this helmet of hair that sits smooth and flat against the head. So let's start with our hairline. I have a fairly tall forehead, taller than a lot of people. So I'm going to show you proportionately where my hairline falls, and then you can work out what you want to do. And you can even see on your own body where it falls. But if I take and I measure this, I can see from my hairline to about the middle of my eyes, I'm running at about 4 inches. Now, to give you a proportion on that, 4 inches on my actual face is really almost the whole distance to the outside of my eyes. So this distance from here to here on a standard, face, this distance from the outside of the eye to the outside of the eye, that's about the same distance from the middle of the eye to where the hairline lands. So when I go and look here, I look at here on mine, this is running about 3 inches. So from where the middle of the eye, my hairline is going to start right about there. Okay, I'm going to establish my hairline. And watch your hairline. Your hairline moves too. And so it shouldn't be just like, you want some movement and some variation on that and make it look a little more natural. I am going to do this thing. I'm going to show you this on camera, but I just take and I dip this in my water in my slip, and then I go ahead and I score with it. So I'm scoring wet, and it's kind of a quick, easy way for me to get a whole big sections wet and ready to go at one time. My ear, if you'd watch the ear video, oops, I'll do it this way. My ear, if I had an ear, the ear would be starting back here. And my mask isn't deep enough for me to justify having an ear on it. But I am going to bring some hair around here, just like I have hair in front of my ear here. So I'll bring my hairline. Well, we should also talk about this. And that is, how far back from your eye does your hairline start? And so from the edge of your eye, measure back to where your hairline starts. And that's going to be about 2 inches. Now remember, my nose on my mask is about 2 inches. Okay, so basically the length of my nose from my corner of my eye, that's how far back I'm going to go to where my hairline starts. So my hairline is starting back here and back here. Okay, so I'm going to mark that. So that's where it starts. Now I can have hair curl in front of that hairline. All right. You can have bangs coming all the way down into your eyes if you wanted. But just so if you're establishing that hairline, you need to know where it is. Okay. All right. Let's go back to getting some nice gooey slip on here so I can go ahead and start laying some hair in. Okay. So depending on, if I'm going to do long hair, short hair, I can start with longer coils or shorter coils. So I'm just going to start rolling some coils. And I'm just going to start laying some coils in here for the hair to just give it that kind of that dimensionality. Kind of like hanks of hair falling in there. And I'll make some bigger and some smaller. I'm going to just pull this hair back away from the hairline for now, and then I'll work some more. That's a little close. I lost my line there. I'm going to pull it back away this way, all along the hairline. And I do it in sections like this so that I don't lay a coil along here, because I'll end up getting that really straight, rigid line. Again, that looks like helmet hair, and that's not how our hair grows. So I'm always thinking about, how does this exist in nature and how can I duplicate that in the clay? There's no sense in inventing a new way for it to exist because we already have a way that it exists. And what we're trying to do, if we're doing it, and especially if we're doing a realistic rendition, is we're trying to duplicate how it already exists in nature. Okay, I'm just going to keep pulling some hair back. I'm not going to have you sit through this whole thing. Probably at some point. I'm going to give you a basic demo, and then I'm going to go off camera and finish it, and then I'll bring it back and show it to you. So after I kind of lay that in like that, then I take my fingers, and I just kind of run my fingers through it to kind of give it some ups and downs and some movement. I pull it away and down like it might normally flow. If I wanted to pull it away from a part, you know, like if I decided I wanted to have a part right here, I might just roughly pull it that way from the part, pull it this way from the part, and then I'd use my fingers to pull the hair in either direction. If I'm pulling from a part, from the part you get this rise of hair, where you've piled hair on top of other hair. So make sure you get the dimension of that when you put that in. And coming this way, pulling back and away from that hairline. Okay, and that just kind of roughly, for me, gives me the movement and the dimensionality of that hair. Clean that up a little bit, but not too much. Okay, along the hairline, I'm going to do this with my dollar store knife because I know a lot of you have these. I'm trying to use tools that I know you have. I like to lift the hair up just a little bit. Along here. And create a little bit of a shadow underneath that hairline. It's hard for me to do upside down. It's easier to do this way. So let me do it. And I'll show it to you. And I don't make it really regular. I make it irregular. But I'm just pulling little bits off and creating a little bit of a shadow under there so you can feel that hair lifting up. Adding some irregularity. So if I was going to do short hair with no bangs, I would do that where I'm exposing the hairline. Let me smooth that a little bit. And then I would go ahead and I'd put some line work in there. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. And then I would take a brush with some water and I'd go over the whole thing. So what that does is that it turns it into one cohesive thing. So it kind of looks like it's hanging together. And it makes that line work sit down. That line work is pretty obvious and bold when you do it that way. But when you run this water over it, it fills it in and it softens it. And it kind of just brings it all together and makes it look like hair. Okay. Now, so there's kind of, you can see, as soon as it absorbs the water, you'll be able to see even more. I'm going to go ahead and do some bangs now. So I'm going to attach hair up at the hairline and then pull it down into the, oops, over here, pull it down into the face. In case you want bangs. Can you see that? I hope you can see. I'll put that a little bit closer. So So I'm just pulling some hair down onto the face here. Come on the other side of my part. Pull some more hair down. Just using little coils of clay. Trying to get the thickness of the hair over here is what I'm working on this one here. I'm going to just kind of focus on this side for a minute. So here I go. I'm going to pull my fingers through here. So I get kind of the texture of how those tresses fall. The direction, how they rise up, where they're layered, and then get flatter as they go down. Shorter near the front, be longer and fuller in the back. Okay, let me see how I'm doing here. I'm going too much in one direction. I'm going to just work on those directions a little bit and do a little bit of direction changing. I'm just picking off the little balls of clay that I raised up. Okay. On the hairline here, I'm going to do some deeper gouges so I get some shadows along that hairline, where the part, I should say. I think I'm going to do some deeper gouges in here too, so I get even more dimensionality, more movement. Those are pretty obvious right now, but I'm going to soften them, don't forget. Okay, a little bit of line work. Okay, it's a lot of line work. I'm going to go along here and I'm going to raise this up off the face a little bit. And just do a little bit of undercut. That's not the hairline. The hairline is back behind there. So this is just where the hair is sitting on the face. And I don't want that to look like it's glued down or plastered down. So I will go do an undercut on that so we get a nice little shadow underneath there. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all these little balls of clay that I raised up. And just kind of roll right off. Okay, here we go. A little bit of water, go over the whole thing. Soften all of that. Have it lay down. I'll look like one cohesive unit, but with its highs and lows and its ups and downs, its in and outs, its shadows. Okay. It's a little deep in here, so I'm going to just soften this a little bit more. All right, and as it absorbs that water, it'll change. You're going to see that it's going to change. I'll work on the other side just while I let that set up so you can see how it changes once the water has started to dry. Okay, so on this side, don't want to mess up the hair that I've already done. I'm going to get the height of that hair as it piles up on top of each other as it's coming over the top of the head. And then it kind of falls down flatter with gravity as it comes down the side of the head here. Okay, let me roll some of these little balls off of here that I created. I'm going to really get some nice deep highs and lows, some texture on this hair. I'm going to lift it up away from the face so it doesn't feel like a helmet. Okay. I've got kind of a weird ridge there where I started one coil and the other one, they didn't quite meet, so I'm going to get rid of that because that doesn't look natural. Okay, let's do the line work. Okay, and the other little balls of clay I want to get rid of here. You know, you raise up these little pills of clay that I kind of just, some of them I leave, but majority of them I knock them off because they, too many of them looks weird. A couple is okay. Run over the whole thing with water to make it kind of sit down and all become cohesive. Okay, it'll take a while for this water to absorb in. As it absorbs in, it's going to change. It looks very wet and slick and shiny right now, and it's hard for us to see the texture of the hair. This is just starting to absorb in a little bit, and I think you can see a little bit better. But I'm going to continue to work on this, and then I'll come back in just a minute and show you when I have it done. And we're back. And I worked on this a little bit off camera, and I wanted to show you, I added a lot of clay for the hair. See how I gave that a lot of dimension, a lot of ups and downs and ins and outs, okay? And then also along the hairline, I raised the hairline and lowered it, and I fluctuated the hairline, okay? Gave her a little bit of eyebrows, not a whole lot. You can do more or less depending on what you're doing with your mask. I went over with a stiff bristled brush, and I dry brushed everything and got all the little boogers and stuff off all around. Then I went with a wet brush and gave it all a wash so it would even everything out. And then the last thing I did is I took the sponge from your beginner's kit and I got it just wet with just a little bit of slip, and then I pounced the skin surface. I just like, you won't be able to tell now because it's going to be a change in color because some is wet and some is dry. But I just pounced it a little bit. I just like that gives it kind of a velvet feel to the skin that I like. On the back side, because I added so much clay, this was all added here. So I went and I know you're going to have trouble seeing this. Let's see if this lamp can get this over here. This will help. Hold on one second. Okay, so there we go. I undercut in here and went and gouged a bunch of this clay out from the back side so that I didn't have this much clay in there because that's just too thick. It's going to take forever to dry. So I undercut this and gouged all of this out, went ahead and cleared that out, and then I poked a bunch more holes where I had added all that hair. I poked a bunch of holes so I hopefully don't have a problem with any air trapping. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bag it up tight. I put a lot of wet clay on here and then I washed it with some wet slip. And so I'm going to bag it really tight and I'm going to let it sit for a day or two and let it pass that moisture back and forth and back and forth. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to take one last look at it and see if I have anything I want to change. And if I'm happy with it, then I'm going to just gently lay the bag over it and let it sit like that for a day. I'll pull the bag off. I'll put like a pillowcase over it, and then I'll just let it continue to dry under the pillowcase for several days, up to a week. We can take some time with these drying. And when it's getting nice and chalky looking, I can take the pillowcase off and I can just let it go ahead and continue to air dry. If you can get it up on something, you know, where you can have air passing underneath it as well as on top of it, rather than it sitting flat on a table where no air is getting underneath, that would be great. So even if you just had, you know, a couple boards that you could put it on so it's up off the table and air, I don't know if you can see that, but air can get underneath it and it can dry on both sides. Yeah, once you go to the pillowcase, get that elevated so that it's drying evenly backside and front side, and then you are done. Let it dry out, and hopefully we're going to get this to a bisque before the semester's over. Hi guys, back again. You're thinking about now, oh my God, Jeannie, will this video never end? Yes, it will, but I didn't like my hair. So I sat here looking at it, I was like, you know, it's not right, and I decided to go back and work on it some more, and I thought I should share that with you. So this is what I did. I don't know if you can see the difference here, but I pulled the hairline back a little bit, and I put a lot more rise and fall and a lot of irregularity into that hairline, and I just felt a lot better about that. So I wanted to share that with you, and so you know too that, oh, I also worked on the mouth. I made the lower lip a little bit fuller. I'm just tweaking little things now, and so the reason why I added this on here is to remind you that if it doesn't look right, if something just, you're just not feeling it, then go back, look at it, think about it, adjust it. Look at yourself in a mirror, look at whoever you're isolated with, and see how theirs look. Or go online and go look at sculptures or drawings and see, maybe by looking at theirs, you can get some ideas on improving yours. But if it's not right, it's not right. And so go back and work on it some more. Like I said a few minutes ago, I'm going to bag this baby up. I'm going to put her away. I won't come back. I won't make you sit through any more video on hair. But I will look at her tomorrow and I'll see what I think. And if any other adjustments need to be made, as long as I keep her wet, I can keep making just little minor tweaks. And sometimes that's all it needs. So do go back and take a hard look at them before you're completely done and let them dry out and see if they need any more tweaks before you're ready to let them go to the bone dry stage.